Okay, guys, welcome back to section 5.2, part 2. I did not get the first part finished in a decent amount of time to get up on Edpuzzle, so here's part 2. So, in example 2, we give you some equations, and we need to find out what the zeros of find the zeros of the polynomials. What zeros are is, so say if I had a graph here, and I drew a graph, the zeros would just be the numbers that it would cross the x-axis. So like here, we would have 3 zeros. So we have a zero of -3, 1, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So I'm going to give you equations, and I'm going to teach you how to find those zeros. Now, it has to do with a lot of factoring, which we learned in part 1 or reviewed in part 1. Now, we did a lot of this last unit where we factored an equation and then set each factor equal to 0 and solved it. That's all we're doing here again. So in letter A, it's actually already factored for us. We have 3 separate factors. So we're just going to simply set those factors equal to 0 and then solve them. All right, so the first one we would subtract 1 and then divide by 2. So there's our first 0. They're also known as roots, by the way. Second one, add 8. And the third one, subtract 7. So we have 3 zeros here, also known as roots. Okay, letter B is another one that's factored for us already. So we can go right to solving. Set it equal to 0. Now the second one has a squared to it. Don't worry about that. You can pretty much ignore that. That's just saying the x minus 1 repeats. So if it repeats, in terms of getting answers, we wouldn't repeat our answers anyway. So the first one we would subtract 3 and divide by 2. So you can call it -1.5. And the second one, add 1. So we have 2 zeros, also known as roots. You might hear me say roots today instead of zeros. Same thing. Letter C, the x plus 3 cubed, you can ignore the cube. That just means it would kind of touch it 3 times if we were to graph it. So just write it once and subtract 3. So we have 1, 0, and that is when it crosses the x-axis at -3. The reason we call them zeros is because the points are when the y is 0. The thing I drew earlier, all of the points, it was like 4, 0, 1, 0, -3, 0. Okay, so letter D is the first one where I have to completely factor. So remember, we always look out for GCF first. I have a GCF of x here. And then divide by x to have x squared minus x minus 12. Left over here, I got an easy trinomial. So I bring down the x. Do not make your GCF disappear. It's very important that it gets dropped down when it has an x in it. And then your signs, your c is a minus, so your signs must be plus minus. and I need two numbers that multiply to get negative 12 and subtract to get negative 1. That would be pretty easy. That would be 3 and negative 4. Remember, sign of b goes to the bigger number, which is negative, such as negative 4. Okay, so now I want to set, technically I should be carrying down the y equals, but not really important here. We just need to remember that we are finding the zeros, therefore we need to set up our equations. Now we have 3 factors here, so we're going to set 3 equations. The first one from your GCF, x equals 0, that's done. We have a 0 of 0. The second one, x plus 3 equals 0, so subtract 3. And the last, x minus 4 is 0, add 4. So we have 3 zeros here, and done. Letter E. Let's factor. Do we have a GCF? Remember, we're always looking for a GCF first here. We do. We have an x. So x in parentheses. Sorry for the pause, had to get a drink. And then divide by x to have 2x squared plus x minus 1. Okay, so now this is actually a hard trinomial. You guys are going to get a recap right now of how to do that, the a times c method. So remember, it's a times c on the sides. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And then we do factors of negative 2, which would obviously have to be 1 and 2. The b term here is a 1. So we need to split this plus 1x term up into 2 terms. We got to be careful with the signs because the c is a minus. That means my signs have to be different, plus minus. So if the b is plus 1, it's a positive. The sign of b goes to the bigger number. Therefore, the 1 must get a negative. And, you know, notice they do make sense here. They add up to the 1x. So that means the 1x gets split up into minus 1x and plus 2x. And then bring your other terms down. Okay, so now we have 4 terms in the parentheses. Remember, we need to factor by grouping. So we need to, in other words, GCF twice. Make 2 parentheses in GCF, pull GCF out of each of them. Okay, we're going to pull out there's our original GCF x. Sometimes when you have like double parentheses, you want to use brackets. So the GCF of the first group is x, and then divide that out to have 2x minus 1. The GCF of your second group, there is none. That's apparent, so you would technically call it 1. So you need to write plus 1 out of the parentheses. And dividing by 1 does nothing. Notice that the parentheses match here and here. That means we did it right, so we want to now rearrange it. Bring down your GCF, and we're now going to rearrange into 2 parentheses. Your 1 parentheses will be your highlighted, your matching 2x minus 1. And then your other parentheses will be your GCFs get put together, the x and the plus 1. Now everything's completely factored. You don't have any GCF. You don't have any, you don't have any exponents left over. So I know it's completely factored. So now I can go to getting my answers. I'm going to have 3 of them here. X equals 0. 2x minus 1 equals 0. I'm going to add 1 and then divide by 2. And the third, x plus 1 equals 0, subtract 1. So I have my 3 answers, my 3 zeros, where it would cross the x-axis. Oh, I hate those hard trinomials. All right, do I have a GCF in F? Yes, I do, just in X. Divide by X to have X squared minus 2X minus 15. All right, we divided everything by X. What's left over in parentheses looks like an easy trinomial to me. That can easily be factored into 2 parentheses. Signs, the C. Remember, always look to the C first. It's a minus. So what are your signs going to be? Plus, minus. I need 2 numbers that multiply to get 15. But they got to subtract to get the B term, -2. That would be these guys here. The sign of B goes to the bigger number, which would be 5. Therefore, the plus with the 3. And now everything's factored, so I can go to getting my answers. I'm going to have 3 of them again. X equals 0. Set x plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3. And x minus 5 equals 0. Add 5. There's your 3 zeros, also known as roots. Okay, so we learned how to find the zeros given an equation. We had to completely factor, and we got normal answers here, rational numbers. In the next part, we are going to do, in example 3, the exact reverse of what we just did. So we are going to be given the zeros. Like in letter A, it says we have a 0 of 3 and -3. So we're going to take those zeros, and our goal will be to write a polynomial. It says find the polynomial. We are really writing a polynomial with the given zeros. So in example 2, we kind of divided things up into smaller parts. So the opposite of dividing and factoring would be multiplying and distributing. And that's what we're doing here. That is the concept. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with y equals, where it says x equals 3, we're going to put that into parentheses as opposites. If it's a number other than 0, we're putting it in parentheses as opposites. So 3 would be x minus 3. And the -3 would be x plus 3. We are not, this is a plus, we are not going to keep it like this. We are going to turn it back into looking like, not ABC, but we're actually going to turn it back into looking like DEF. So what would we do? We are going to FOIL here. FOIL and combine like terms. So first times first, multiply the outsides, multiply the insides, and multiply the last. And then we combine like terms. These guys add up to 0, so cross them out. And you're left with y equals x squared minus 9. And that is done. Please make sure to start the problem with y equals and end it with y equals. Okay, let's try another one. This one's actually easier. So start with your y equals. When you have a 0, that's just going to be an x outside of parentheses, just like a GCF of x that we were doing earlier. And then the -9 will be, remember it's opposite, x plus 9. And now we're going to distribute the x, so x times x, and x times plus 9. And there's no like terms, so this guy is done. Okay, now we're going to up the difficulty a little bit, actually quite a bit, because we now have 3 roots. So we are going to be multiplying a lot and combining like terms. So let's set up our parentheses. The -2 will be x plus 2. The 2 will be x minus 2. And the 3 will be x minus 3. So we can't multiply all 3 binomials at once. We need to start with the first 2. So we're going to FOIL this here. So we're going to go first, outer, inner, and last. Bring down your x minus 3 for now. And then combine like terms. -2x plus 2x will cancel out. All right, now the first one's simplified, so now we're going to FOIL/distribute again. So first, outer, inner, and last. And we would always try to combine like terms, but there aren't any here. So this guy is done. And notice my answer is in standard form, highest exponent down to the lowest, and then the constant at the end. Remember, we want to write our answers in standard form. Okay, let's try another. Letter D. The 0, that would just be an x outside of parentheses, like a GCF. 1 would be x minus 1, and -4 would be x plus 4. Again, we're dealing with opposites here. So let's distribute the first 2. That would be x times x and x times -1. Bring down the x plus 4. And then we're going to FOIL here. And then try to combine like terms. So first, outside, just double checking that, inside, and last. And then we're going to combine like terms. We have them here. So bring down the x cubed, plus 4x squared minus x squared would be plus 3x squared. And bring down the minus 4x. And it's in standard form, everything's simplified, and we're done with D. Okay, let's get more practice in. Letter E. Remember opposites in parentheses, x minus 1, x plus 2, x plus 3. Worry about the first 2, we're going to FOIL those out. So first, outer, inner, and last. And then we're going to combine like terms right here. Add those up. Plus 1x. All right, we technically wouldn't call it foiling here because FOIL is 2 binomials multiplying. We have a trinomial times a binomial. So what we have to do here is we're going to be multiplying 6 times. We're going to be triple distributing here. So we're going to start with the, let me color code it for you. We'll start with the x squared. So x squared times x, and then x squared times 3. Then we move on to the next term, the 1x times x. So plus 1x squared, and then 1x times 3. And then we move on to the last, -2 times x, and -2 times 3. It's really not difficult, just takes a bit of time. And then we can combine like terms. Y equals, I like to cross things out. Actually, never mind. Ignore that. X to the third gets brought down by itself. X squared's here. They would add up to plus 4x squared. These guys add up to plus 1x. and bring down your minus 6. And then you're done. It's all in standard form. All right, last one for the lesson. More practice. Do the opposites. Start with your first two here. FOIL these out. So first, outer, inner, last. Combine like terms. These guys can combine. So it'd be bring down the x squared. Combine to have minus 4x and bring down your plus 3. And bring down your x plus 3, of course. And then we have a trinomial times a binomial. Just like last problem, we're going to multiply 6 times and then try to distribute. So start with the x squared. Start with the x squared. X squared times x. X squared times 3. Then the negative 4x distributes. So that'll be minus 4x to the second and minus 12x. And then the 3 distributes. So plus 3x plus 9. And then we can combine like terms here to finish the problem. Y equals x cubed drops down. Got some x squareds here. They add up to minus 1x squared. Some x's. These add up to negative 9x and bring down your plus 9. And that's it. It's actually really not a difficult section here to learn. Just remember, when they give you the zeros and your goal is to write a polynomial, you are putting them in as opposites. If they give you a 0, such as x equals 0, that's just a simple x. And it's just a bunch of multiplying and combining like terms. Pretty easy stuff. All right, when you're ready, move on to the homework.